So just a disclaimer, this game came out in 2018, so I'm assuming that if you wanted to play it, you would have by now. In case you haven't, this video will spoil almost everything about it, so you have been warned. Also, I am in no way a licensed therapist, so everything I say in this video is purely my opinions on the story of Celeste and how it has impacted my life personally. I want to talk about Celeste. Celeste means a lot to me. When I first played it, it helped me through some difficult times in my life, like so many video games have before. So I want to break down why that really is. What makes Celeste so remarkable? I believe Celeste is trying to teach one main lesson. Life is hard, and that's okay. And the four main ways it does this is through its visuals, gameplay, story, and music. The art in Celeste is so often neglected, which is understandable due to the absolute beauty of the other three parts of this video. But I think the visuals still don't get enough credit. Celeste has three main art styles: the simplistic pixelated graphics that you'll spend the bulk of your time looking at, the still pixelated but more detailed backgrounds, and the beautiful character portraits in the dialogue sections. I'll start this section by talking about the most common pixelated graphics. Many indie games have come out recently with pixelated graphics, and that might turn you off from Celeste. But don't let it. The art is simplistic, yes, but it displays just enough information to be relevant and still have a strong sense of character. The way it uses color is the most important facet of the graphics. As I'm sure you know, the color of Madeline's hair changes with the amount of dashes you have available. And when Madeline is out of stamina, she turns red and you start to fall. Subtle changes of color like this allows the game to easily pass on information to the player without a bunch of text, complicated UI, or weird bars and meters. There is no excess information on the screen distracting the player. Everything they need to know, they can infer from a simple change in color. The player doesn't need to be told that when their hair is blue, they can't dash again. They naturally know that they can only dash once while in midair, and notice that when they do so, their hair turns blue. And when they land again and recharge their dash, their hair turns red. This is intuitive. So when the game later introduces these green crystals to recharge the dash mid-air, the player doesn't need to be told what they do. When they hit these crystals, they see their hair turn back to red and know what this means. Even if the player doesn't make this connection right away, they will eventually learn it for themselves and make a stronger connection for it. While this is more in the vein of good game design rather than storytelling, it still shows how much the game developers respect their audience. They know that people are strong. They wouldn't be making a game with such powerful topics if they didn't. They know that their audience is able to overcome challenges without being dragged along by the hand. Besides using color to relay information to the player, the game uses its color to expertly set the mood for each stage. In the more upbeat stages, the colors are vibrant and rich, and in the scarier or more tense levels, the colors are dark and bleak, mostly black. Even the few colors that these levels do have are more dark than the other levels, or eerily lifeless. And going back to the main goal of Celeste, the dark and gloomy colors make the player feel alone, isolated, and helpless. This emphasizes the point that life is hard. Sometimes in life we feel like we're stuck in this dark place. We feel scared and alone. But if we just keep moving, we will eventually come to a better place. And the bright colors and environments in Celeste fill the player with joy and peace. And this emphasizes that everything will be alright. Enjoy the beautiful moments while they last, because you never know when you'll be plunged into a dark dungeon. And the more happy and peaceful levels in Celeste definitely are beautiful. The backgrounds only help to emphasize these points. In the more dark and depressing levels, the backgrounds are similarly eerie. They appear as a dark abyss, just waiting for the player to lose control. To completely contrast this, the backgrounds are also some of the most beautiful and serene settings as well. The final level, the summit, has beautiful pink clouds rising in the background, portraying how far both Madeline and the player have come in their journey. They're reminded of how far they had to climb to reach this point, and are proud of themselves for all the progress they have made, despite the many setbacks. The pink and orange clouds also portray a rising sun, subconsciously giving the player a feeling of a fresh day or a new beginning. They know that whatever they go through, they can overcome it. They can always learn and grow from their experiences and enter a new day as a better person, not held down or defeated by their challenges. That is what's so beautiful about the art in Celeste. They match so well with the feelings that each chapter is intending to invoke through the gameplay and story, and amplify these feelings, even if the player isn't consciously aware of that fact. And finally, the character designs. In each dialogue section, the character that is speaking gets a little drawing depicting what they would look like. This helps to show the emotions and feelings of the characters in each situation. These can display feelings like fear, anxiety, and anger so much better than words on a screen. These feelings are integral to the story, so these models are extremely important in making the dialogue sections come alive. It also shows the power of Madeline, or the bad part of Madeline. During the climax of the chapter Reflection, Madeline comes out of the frame for the character models, breaking the established rules. She is the only character to do this. This shows the absolute control that she has on Madeline, the absolute control that our fear, anxiety, and depression can have on us. When we think we have everything figured out, these emotions take back control, with seemingly little that we can do about it. While Celeste's visuals are much more subtle and subconscious in their effects on the player, the gameplay is much more direct. Celeste is a difficult game, brutally difficult at times. To be blunt, the game's difficulty directly relates to life's struggles. This is really hard, but you can do it. Yes, you will fail, but with each defeat you gain experience, and eventually you will prevail. The game encourages you to look at your deaths not as a measure of your worth, but as a proof of your growth. Now, it's great for a video game to allow the player to draw connections to their lives while playing, but it is still a video game. Some people want a more challenging experience, while some seek something more relaxing. Celeste's creators wanted the main gameplay to correlate with the story, the core idea being challenging. But they also wanted to provide people with options, so that anyone can enjoy their game and experience the story they have to tell. This is where Celeste truly shines, in giving the player difficulty options. It includes an assist mode, which allows the player to change certain aspects of the game to make it easier. And if you want something more challenging, Celeste has plenty of options for that. While going through the game, you will find many optional challenges. These range from quite simple tasks to dreadful challenges that only the most masochistic will undertake. The former usually takes form in strawberries, a common collectible that requires some alternate or challenging platforming to reach. Each level has plenty to keep you looking around for that last strawberry. And while tearing these levels apart, you may also stumble upon a hidden cassette tape, which unlocks the B-side for a level. These are remixed versions of the core levels, the same aesthetic and theme, but without the story elements and offer a much higher challenge. Then there are the C-sides, which are another version of the stages. These are much shorter than the A and B sides, but are extremely challenging. And finally, if that wasn't enough, there are golden strawberries. These can be obtained at the beginning of each level, and are only finally collected after you beat the entire level, without dying. And yes, even the B and C sides have these. By adding these difficulty options, the developers have given people different ways to play the game. Just like in real life, we all need something a little different. What works for one person certainly won't work for another. And this is another detail of how Celeste developers understand their audience. They know that people have different needs, and they built their game accordingly. So while Celeste may be a completionist hell, it offers varying levels of difficulty to satisfy almost any player. Overall, the gameplay fully suits the metaphor of the entire game, climbing a mountain. The whole setting of this game is a metaphor for the challenges that life presents. While most of us don't decide to go climb a mountain to come to terms with ourselves and prove our worth like Madeline does, life is still full of unexpected changes and challenges, and life can often feel like you're tackling an impossible task like climbing a mountain. The gameplay aptly captures this. It is brutally difficult and seems impossible, but with a little bit of dedication, you will make it through. Now, the beloved story of Celeste. The main character, Madeline, decides that they need to climb a mountain. This mountain represents Madeline's anxiety, depression, self-doubt, her insecurities, which is not a foreign concept for most of us. Madeline believes that by climbing Celeste Mountain, she can prove to herself that she is stronger than these parts of herself. These bad parts of herself are so often in her mind that the mountain's strange power actually brings them to life. Madeline, as she is called, is a character that physically represents these insecurities. By the second chapter, Madeline breaks free from Madeline while she is looking in a strange mirror. Madeline then chases Madeline, and the level ends in a stressful attempt to flee from the attack of her own insecurities. In the end, the level is revealed to have just been a dream, but Madeline still permeates the other levels. This level shows how real our struggles are. By taking everything Madeline is dealing with out of her head and giving it a physical representation is genius. I'm sure many of us feel like something is wrong with us, and it's all just in our heads. But by bringing these feelings to life in a physical character and having them actually chase the player through a level, the player can really feel what it's like to battle with these feelings. These feelings are a very real problem that many people grapple with daily, and they're not just in your head. After this stressful interaction with part of herself, Madeline finds herself in an abandoned hotel helping its creepy owner, Mr. Oshiro. While Madeline's friend Theo leaves the resort and urges Madeline to do the same, Madeline stays and helps Oshiro clean up his hotel. Madeline is torn between her own goals and aspirations, climbing the mountain, and helping others in their time of need. Ultimately, she puts Oshiro's priorities before her own. While empathy is a very strong and positive character trait, sometimes people need to deal with their own problems in life before they can accept help from others or help others. And this was the case with both Madeline and Oshiro. Oshiro needed to accept that his hotel was gone, or begin working hard to restore it, rather than obsessing over what it once was and trying to impress potential customers, Theo and Madeline. Ultimately, because he could not attend to his hotel on his own, he forced his problems on everyone else. Madeline, on the other hand, was already busy battling her own insecurities that she could hardly help this man with the futile task of rebuilding his hotel, especially if he himself hadn't acknowledged that he needs help and that the hotel is beyond repair. At the end of the chapter, the evil part of Madeline, or Madeline, completely loses it and basically tells Mr. Oshiro to get his shit together and quit having everyone take care of his problems for him. She was right. Mr. Oshiro did need to acknowledge his own problems before he could even work on fixing them, but Madeline was completely out of line. As a result, Oshiro freaks out and the level ends in another chase, this time with Mr. Oshiro transforming into a boss-like form while Madeline desperately tries to escape the hotel and the wrath of Mr. Oshiro. The next level's story, Golden Ridge, is much more subtle, yet is much more powerful in my opinion. The majority of the level is challenging platforming, but the scenery is exceedingly beautiful. Madeline is getting quite high on the mountain, and the sky is filled with golden light and a fresh breeze. The player is already subconsciously put in a good mood during this level. But at the end of the level, disaster strikes. Madeline meets up with Theo again, and they ride a gondola to clear a ravine. Madeline suddenly appears and stops the gondola, making it shake violently. Being stranded thousands of feet in the air in a rickety old cage that is shaking violently was too much for Madeline and her fear of heights. She starts to have a panic attack. Theo, thinking quickly, comforts her and teaches her a simple trick to calm down. Close your eyes. Picture a feather floating in front of you. Your breathing keeps it afloat. In and out. This helps to calm Madeline down, and they reach the other side safely. Including this feather technique is genius, because many people feel absolutely helpless when they're in these situations, and either don't know any methods to help, or don't even know that they're having a panic attack. Even remembering a simple trick like this will help you calm down, slow your breathing, and eventually get through the panic attack. This chapter represents life's challenges so well. Sometimes everything seems to be going great, and then out of nowhere, everything falls apart. You feel small, helpless, and alone. As someone who has experienced panic attacks before, Theo's tip is actually pretty good. Visualizing the feather takes a lot of your attention. Any distraction from the feeling of impending doom that you're about to die is welcome. Then focusing the rest of your attention on your breathing is also extremely helpful. It brings your mind away from the scary and dangerous thoughts that your brain wants to run to during a panic attack. It helps you to stay in the present moment and realize that you're in your body, that you are okay. This level is not as dramatic or monumental as the next few, but it perfectly represents our daily struggle. Each day presents new, unexpected challenges that can be extremely stressful for some of us. And sometimes we lose it. Sometimes our anxiety gets the better of us and we have a panic attack. These feelings don't only happen in the most extreme circumstances, they're a daily, constant battle within ourselves. This level perfectly displays this, and that's why I love it so much. The next level, Mirror Temple, is an ancient, abandoned temple. Theo and Madeline get lost inside and eventually get separated. Theo gets sucked into a mirror, and it's up to Madeline to save him. Mirrors are a common imagery used in Celeste to represent one's other half, one's insecurities and struggles. During the second level, Old Sight, Madeline breaks free from the mirror. In the Mirror Temple, Theo is sucked into the mirror. In both cases, the mirror represents a reflection of oneself. Not a true reflection, but not an entirely false one either. Rather, it represents all the insecurities and shortcomings that, whether we like it or not, are a part of us. Madeline breaks free from the mirror to show how strong Madeline's feelings of self-doubt are, and how they rule her thoughts and actions. Theo, however, seems to have better mental health. He's always there to help Madeline when she's struggling, and seems to have it all under control. Yet the Mirror Temple shows us that this is not the case. While it may not be as pronounced and troublesome as Madeline's, Theo definitely still has his own demons. When he gets sucked into the mirror, he is completely helpless. We all feel this way at some point or another, trapped and helpless. But Madeline comes to his rescue. This level is great in contrast to the Celestial Resort. Mr. Oshiro is too proud to admit his own failings and unintentionally presses his own problems on everyone else. Theo, however, is the complete opposite. He always cares for others and helps them when they need it, which can be seen by his relationship with Madeline. It's for these reasons that when he is in peril, Madeline is actually able to help him, unlike Oshiro. It is somewhat of a redemption for Madeline, to show that she can still be empathetic and help others without completely ignoring her needs, like she did with Oshiro. And we all need help in life. In addition to being a redemption arc for Madeline, it also shows the player another important theme. You are never alone. Theo had always been there for Madeline when she was struggling, and now when Theo is at his lowest point, when he is helpless, Madeline is there for him. When you're at the darkest point in your life and feel utterly helpless and completely alone, there are always people there to support you. It seems impossible that other people can feel the way you do and understand what you're going through. And maybe they can't. But people always have their own struggles and can often relate. Just telling someone how you feel is often enough for them to realize that you're struggling and realize that they have been through something similar and know that the help and support of another is priceless. It's so easy to get lost in the darkness of the world. Everything we see on the news is depressing. This only exacerbates our own feelings of worthlessness and hopelessness. But this is not reality. There is still light in this world. There are people willing to help. All you need to do is find someone who can relate or empathize, and talk to them. You're not in this alone. The next level, Reflection, has the most important events for both Madeline's character arc and the story as a whole. After making it out of the Mirror Temple safely, Theo and Madeline rest on a ridge. Madeline gets up while Theo is still resting and begins to finish the last leg of her journey up the mountain. A new power-up is introduced, the Feather, which connects the methods for dealing with anxiety and panic attacks to the gameplay. The Feather allows Madeline to fly in any direction for a short period of time. Floating in the air amidst the beautiful northern lights, Madeline and Madeline have a conversation. Madeline finally realizes who Madeline is. She is not a true reflection of herself. She's everything she needs to leave behind. She doesn't need her anymore. She decides to set Madeline free. Madeline responds with fear and anger. She tells Madeline that she can't just be left behind. As Madeline's anger rises, Madeline begins to calm herself with the feather technique. Madeline then cuts through her thoughts and destroys the feather. She mocks her, laughing at Madeline for thinking that a feather could stop her. Madeline retorts in full anger, saying that Madeline isn't above her, she isn't better, and she cannot climb this mountain. Madeline then drags them both back down the mountain, past the base, and deep into a cave. This is the pinnacle of Celeste's storytelling, and the turning point for Madeline. Madeline has finally figured it all out. She thinks she just needs to leave this part of her behind. I'm sure we've all felt like this at some point or another. But that part of us always seems to come back. It can't just be abandoned. Madeline has lost all her progress in climbing her mountain and overcoming her personal doubts and insecurities. After seeming to have made so much progress, everything fell apart. She's at rock bottom. Defeated and dejected, Madeline slowly tries to find a way out of the cave. Eventually, she runs into Granny, a character that has helped Madeline a few times on her journey. Madeline tells her that that part of her was right. She isn't strong enough to climb the mountain. She failed. She says that she'll just go back home to her sad life and be miserable forever. Granny won't let her off that easily, though. She advises Madeline to go and talk with that part of herself and apologize. After going through an epic boss fight, Madeline finally talks with the part of her, Madeline. Madeline feels worthless and unwanted. She says that she'll try to stay away if that's what Madeline wants. But Madeline realizes that's not what she wants. She realizes that it's okay to be scared. She embraces this part of herself for what it truly is, a part of herself. But she resolves to work with it, not against it. We all have this part of ourselves. We often think we need to get rid of it, like clutter in a house. But we can't. Not without getting rid of a part of ourselves, a part of who we are. No, instead we need to learn to work with it. Being afraid is okay. Things are scary, and that's okay. But we cannot let that fear dominate us either. Both parts of ourselves must work together to overcome our challenges. Fear should be a tool to realize when we are really in danger, but shouldn't hold us back from reaching our goals. Self-doubt gives us the strength to constantly better ourselves. These are parts of us to be worked with, not thrown out. Only until we learn to love ourselves for who we truly are will we be free. And this doesn't mean that everything will be easy. Everyone suffers. There's no escaping it. But we are more than equipped to overcome. We are resilient. The summit is the last main storyline chapter. Having made up with herself, Madeline and Madeline work together to climb up the last of the mountain with ease. Instead of fighting with each other the entire way, they complement each other and make the climb much more manageable. Upon reaching the summit, Madeline soaks in the beautiful view and reflects on how far she's come. She did climb the mountain. She did come to terms with herself, and in a way, she did defeat her demons. Resolving to work together in the future, Madeline and Madeline finally leave Celeste Mountain. Celeste's story is so beautiful because it's so real. It doesn't romanticize anxiety and depression. There are very real problems that many of us face daily, even if we don't let others know. And while its portrayal certainly isn't accurate to everyone's individual story, it is certainly relatable to most. It shows how nasty life can be. Even when we're given a pep talk by others and feel confident and ready to go, life can throw us a curveball, and all of a sudden we're back to square one, feeling defeated and alone. No one ever has it all figured out, but that's okay. It's a constant journey to learn to love and accept ourselves for who we are, and work together with our fears to keep fighting. And this brings me to the last part of this video, Celeste's music. Celeste's music is nothing short of a masterpiece. Lena Raine composed the game's main soundtrack, while the other artists remixed her songs for the B-side tracks. The fact that a single person created the entire soundtrack is simply amazing. But the music is so much better for it. Lena Raine clearly poured her soul into the soundtrack. She took the project very personally and did her best to represent the struggle we all face in her music. The music perfectly matches the mood of each chapter. Happy and uplifting chapters are filled with fast-paced and motivating music, while the more depressing and defeated chapters are filled with discordant sounds and weird scales that set the player on edge. They have unexpected changes and sounds that give the listener anxiety. In the Mirror even has quiet voices delivering cryptic messages in the background that are barely audible. There's even faint breathing and crying. Even if we don't consciously notice all of these details that Lena Raine put into her music, they are still there. Our bodies still subliminally notice them and can affect our mood and emotion. All of these factors combine to make the Celeste OST a complete masterpiece. Not only is the music beautiful in its own right, but it brings so much to the story that is being told in Celeste. It makes the player feel things that simply can't be communicated through art and dialogue. And some of the music has been playing in the background throughout this video, so I'm sure you've already noticed a lot of this. From the visuals and gameplay to the story and music, they all work together to create a beautiful piece of art that touches on very powerful topics and impacts many players' lives in a most profound way.